You all today before I ask my question. My words are compromised integrity. We have lost trust, faith and hope in the governance structures of our country as well as our city. We are tired of inactive ward councillors. My question is, what are we doing at community level, provincial level, national level to address the lawlessness in our country? I have 4 specific areas I'd like to highlight. Illegal dumping, the Zamas, our last count 75,000 working below the city of Johannesburg. The theft of the city's infrastructure, what are we doing about it from a lawlessness perspective? And then the slaughter of children in our streets 2 kilometers down the road in Westbury, where gangs are ruining our community. Thank you for those very good questions. Last question,
Okay, my question I think is to the MMC for Finance, but basically it's about, I'm Mike from Kensington. It's about electricity. We've had huge problems with electricity supply. We've had massive problems with the consistency of the entire system. In the country, you've put the rates up quite substantially, well not you, but through the various structures, it's been an 18.5% increase. And then on top of that, somebody decided that we needed to have, for prepaid meters, this is a proposal, that another 500 Rand per month, 550 Rand per month, will be put on top of that for the council to use as they wish. This is appalling. What are you guys doing? Service control, service delivery is collapsing in the country, and you are raising the prices every month.
Thank you. We're going to start with you. Please continue your answers, and then we close your final remarks for us to move on. Each of you have about 3-4 minutes to do that.
Thank you very much for quite a robust session. I appreciate those. I want to start with councillors who don't perform. If there are DA councillors, can you please take out a pen? And can I give you the email address of the DA Chief Whip? It's cojchiefwhip@da.org.za. That's the first one. Secondly, I would like to say to the gentleman called, I think it was the youngster that stood up, that talked about the ward committees. Ward committees are functional as far as I know. They had quite a bit of training across the city. And I don't know if I quite understood your question, but public participation, there are usually feedback. And if you don't get feedback from the city, your councillor can call a public meeting and give you feedback. Then I would like to talk about the youth quickly. Rec facilities, you know, one of the things that when I was at MMC, and I'm just going to use myself as an example, and I hope Councillor Morero will take this, which I have said to the city and to the executive mayor. I did unannounced oversights. Residents had my phone number. Sometimes they will find me through Facebook or TikTok. And I will go there without security details sometimes. And just go and see what's going on. And that is how we manage to terminate some of these contractors who fail to complete the work and service the poor. And that's what I used to do. And I still do that as a ward councillor. When people raise something with me, I do it. So I would encourage also this administration to do that, because that will assist with some of these rec centres that are incomplete and start terminating those contractors, which will assist us. I want to say, Debbie Cockrell, I think your issue with regards to illegal dumping is big. And I have volunteered not only in the previous, when we were in government, but also now, that the city can use my ward as a pilot. They've just talked about the 5,000 cameras that they have. That because it's difficult for JNPD, I don't know the IOC is currently working, but I know that Camp, because the officers are in my ward, and if it's the same provider, they can pilot the illegal dumping to see the response time for people, to see if it works, and you can actually start fining people for illegal dumping. The problem is the enforcement of our bylaws for illegal dumping. And once that is not done, people will continue to dump, because pick it up will come and clear in the next hour, it's back there again. I've given people phone numbers addresses and share it with JPD, some footage, and people don't get fined. So I'm still putting that publicly, MMC, that I'm happy for people to pilot it in my ward, to use it so it can be done, because I believe that the way to go is technology. I do agree with regards to the water selling. The selling of the water is a big thing. It's happened before. And I don't know, I cannot answer that question. I would ask, but from outside, I mean, if there's proof, and if we can, if the councillor says they must take it up to the city as well. Thanks.
Honestly, of illegal dumping, of arrest, that depends on your jurisdiction. Don't give people false hope because they can call and call is not working. Please.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. I'll start with Salva. With Salva, what needs to get done is we need to give them an opportunity to carry out or carry forward their mandates and their duties without any political interference. The second question in regards to wards, as HNSA, unfortunately, we did not win any wards. We are not ward councillors, but we got 24 peer councillors in the city of Johannesburg. And when it comes to the Meriting illegal occupation, we had a by-election day in Meriting, and this is something we have to look into because we were not aware of anything like that, but we'll look into it just to make sure that something gets done. Councillors who do not perform. Look, I don't think it's the truth that they can stay as councillors for the entire 5 years. You know why? Because political parties don't want to get rid. If it's a ward councillor, a political party, most of the time, they will not want to get rid of that councillor because that will mean a by-election, right? It will mean a by-election. With us, as peer councillors, it's easy because our party can decide that, you know what, every quarter we do assessments and you're not performing, and then they can get rid of you. So it's easy to get rid of a peer councillor than it is to get rid of a ward councillor. It can be done, yes, 100%, it can be done. Tuniso, when are you planning to work together as politicians? We have stated this many times in the past, we are willing to work with any political party besides the African National Congress. And when it comes to the youth, our caucus, 80% of us are the youth. HNSA, 80% of the councillors there are under 35. And when it comes to sports facilities, recreation centers, I agree. I come from Soweto, and I can tell you now, when it comes to sports facilities, it's terrible. That's why the youth ends up staying in parks and starts smoking your hubbly buggy and start experiencing the drugs because there's nothing they can do while they're searching for work or they're waiting for that NAFSA's funds to come in. When it comes to immigration, colleagues, I would like to address this one, especially because that Mashaba was mentioned. Look, as HNSA, we do not hate immigrants. We do not hate them. What we are saying is, when you come here legally and respect our laws. That's what we are saying, right? And thank you so much for applauding the work we did when it comes to insourcing. We're still on that journey. My colleague on my left is still giving us a tough time in regards to security guards, but we are really pushing for them to get insourced because there are other groups that are still there and nothing is getting done. So that's why we are here. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me just give a few comments. One in relation to the water issue. As a country and generally as a city, we need a long-term plan in terms of water provision. I know now that at least nationally they are now concluding the Lesotho project, which intends to help us with the water provision. But we have to deal with the issue of youth water usage, which I think is the most important aspect. then there's no point of continuing with the conversation if you're going to out. Let's allow the out to stop, then you can engage.
May also say we don't use out councillor, but please let us agree that we have invited him to engage in constructive conversation. Recognize our councillor.
Respect.
Please let us not bullshit you.
My values, your
Okay.
values, our values.
Continue.
I'm raising this because already Johannesburg has been red flagged by rainwater in terms of our water usage, which is above what has been allocated by rainwater to Johannesburg. Which also takes it back to us ourselves as residents that we need to conserve and conserve water usage. So it's an important aspect, and I think as Johannesburg we must also enter a debate and discussion on the water as a resource and how can we ensure the maximization of the water. The DA laughed at me when I said we must look into creating boreholes, Jojo, what are they called? Jojo tanks, ensure that schools don't go out when there's no water because we have borehole. And you remember they laughed at me, they called me a Jojo man. And they did a very funny photo. The Jojo is this big and myself is small. So, because I was looking forward into the future, because anyway we are going to battle with water. Whether we like it or not, in the near future, there will be battles with water unless we plan now and respond to the water challenges now.
42 to 40.
Please,
Now, the issue of illegal dumping, we also need to ask our residents to help us deal with it because we ourselves also contribute to illegal dumping. Now, a person is building a house, there's rubble, and hires a truck. You don't even know where that truck dumps, and that truck dumps into the freeway. So we need to, but we try our level best to respond through bylaw enforcement, but the area is too big to manage illegal dumping. So there are programs we're trying to do. We've also put in place some people to help us to go and take that illegal dumping away. We do that 3 days later, the illegal dumping starts again. So it requires community activism to also help us with illegal dumping. So in the long term, we should then find long-term and sustainable solutions towards this matter. But I also want to respond to infrastructure refurbishment. So what we have done now, we've created an infrastructure fund. We have agreed with Joburg Water that as part of the money that we have, we then save 1% of it into our infrastructure refurbishment. But over and above, just yesterday I concluded a meeting with the African Development Bank, who has now an appetite to help us deal with infrastructure by loaning us money, both loans and grant funding, to help us deal with the backlog on infrastructure. So I had a very successful meeting with the Development Bank, the African Development Bank, and they've got very interesting and very favorable interest rates, one, and they also have the better payment, repayment prescripts, which will help us therefore to can loan this money and address infrastructure. For us to deal effectively with the water infrastructure, we need about 10 billion to do it. So over the years, we've been putting about 1.2 billion annual, which meant we're going to take 10 years to deal with the refurbishment. But with the interventions of the African Development Bank, and in fact the French Development Bank has also approved a loan of 2.5 billion, which is a short-term loan, which will help us into addressing problems. So as I conclude, the only way we will succeed is partnerships with civil society and business to help us build the city, because all of us have an interest. So thank you to Joburg Crisis Alliance for creating this platform so that we can, but this platform must extend to practical, actual partnerships with institutions here. Thank you.
And then we call you back, will you come back? Because I do think that what's obvious from this interaction is that there's a lot of pent-up, unresolved things that can't be resolved in one meeting. It needs to be consistent, it needs to be constant. The point that was raised about the problems with the public participation and just there not being a conducive environment for there to be a proper conversation happening and proper engagement between citizens and council. And I think that is a big issue, that this kind of meeting needs to happen weekly, every 2 weeks, until some resolution is found to the crisis. Second thing is that it's very evident that there's a lot of party politics that hamstrings everything. And those of you who are party members need to hold your party leadership accountable for this thing. And then lastly, the issues around the administration not being insulated from politics and of there not being consequence management for the administration is a huge issue, because so many of these things, the point that was raised about 42% you said of the water is lost to leaks. Like, who is responsible for that? Why is the person who's responsible for fixing the leaks not being held accountable? And long conversation, we're running 45 minutes late. I'm going to hand over to you, Ndate